This is a Fox 12 podcast.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Broadcast, a Fox 12 podcast designed to take you behind the scenes on the stories you see during our newscasts. I'm Nora Hart. Today we're talking about a recent feature story that I wrote about float therapy. It was a really fascinating experience. But before we get to that, I wanted to introduce you to my co-host today. I'm joined by Fox 12 executive producer of special projects, Adrienne Foley. Viewers may not know Adrienne by name, but she plays a very big role in the stories you see every day here on Fox 12. So before we dive into the details of this feature, Adrienne, can you tell people what you do here at Fox 12?
I like to say that I have the best job in TV news. A lot of what we do can feel really heavy. The stories I get to work on are geared more towards making an impact in our community. So these are things like our Hunger Free Project, Surprise Squad, our toy drive, for example. Today, we're here to talk about your float therapy story, which was part of our Wellbeing Revolution series that focuses on supporting mental health. And today we're going to switch spots here, Nora. So I'm going to interview you about kind of how we came up with the idea for this story and how it fits into that Wellbeing Revolution brand that we work on a lot together. So you came to me and you said, I have an idea. It's float therapy. I said, what is that? So tell us, what is that?
I responded with, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to find out. And that's why I want to do this story. I'd heard about float therapy. I just didn't really know what it was. I didn't know if this was a widely accepted medical practice or more of like a wellness trend. So I wanted to find out what it was because clearly it's a thing. There are a lot of them in Portland.
Right.
And I wanted to know what it is and how it benefits people. And I was willing to jump in the tank myself to find out.
So I'm running and officiating up and down the court.
Nia Lynn Bravo is a busy woman.
4 to 5 nights a week.
So you go from work and you go straight in.
Yeah.
When she's not reffing women's basketball games, Nia is a busy professional with a resume full of high-pressure jobs.
I was a juvenile probation officer, so a lot of stress, mentally, physically, but now I'm in project management.
And though she seems to handle it all gracefully, Nia says she'll take all the help she can get to slow down.
Hard to relax.
That, along with severe back pain, led her to float therapy.
I had a herniated disc. I was struggling to sleep on my back.
And when it comes to mental health, Nia says floating has been a game changer.
I was diagnosed a while ago with depression and anxiety, and when I talked to my doctor about doing this, I wanted to talk to them about different strategies, and they were saying that it'll be really helpful for me, and it has been.
Float therapy is nothing new, though now more widely available. It involves crawling into a tub of nearly 1,000 pounds of magnesium dissolved into skin temperature water that's so dense you can't sink even if you tried.
I think it's the weightlessness and the feeling of the water just supporting me, and I'm literally just letting go.
An hour or more with no screens, no noise, no gravity, and no lights if you want. Just you, the water, and your thoughts.
Being in the floating tank, it is a space for me to just talk to myself and just reflect on what's happening, what do I need to do to calm my mind, to actually be in the moment.
Typically, I just have people open the door, check it out.
Dana Highfill has been a massage therapist for 17 years and runs Float North in Northeast Portland. She says most of the people who walk through her doors are seeking relief of some kind.
So there's the physical component where you're getting relief because it feels like you're turning off gravity. You're laying there fully supported in a way. Your joints open up. It helps reduce inflammation.
Others use float therapy to supplement their mental health care routines.
You have reduced stimulation to your nervous system, and we can go from fight or flight, which most of us live in, to a rest and repair state.
Okay, so it's my turn. Time to see what it's all about. I'm a little bit nervous, but here we go. They were kidding. I am floating. Oh my goodness. Zero effort into floating here. This is wild. My neck is so tense right now because I don't want my head to go into water, but I don't think it could. It sounds strange, but I'm not great at relaxing. My mind tends to race a lot, and it did for a bit in the float tank. But an hour later, I emerged, covered in salt and feeling much lighter.
Okay, so Nia, she's a busy lady.
Yes.
I was really struck by that comment of everybody sort of lives in that fight or flight mode. I think that resonates with a lot of people, especially for a gal like Nia, who, has a lot going on, a big job, a heavy load. When you first saw the tank and you were going to get in there and they said, no lights, no sound, what were you thinking as far as like, can I do that? Can I do this? Like, I know
Right.
for me, somebody has a little bit of like mild claustrophobia.
Right.
What were your thoughts when you saw it and when you got in?
Well, when I first saw the tank, I was a little bit relieved because the ceilings were pretty tall, like taller than I expected.
Mm.
The tank was pretty big. It wasn't like the bathtub I have at home that's a little more narrow. I thought it was going to be a piece of cake, honestly. I didn't think it was going to be difficult at all because as a working mom, like, it's very rare that we have quiet time. And so I thought this is going to be a really welcome break to just sit here and be forced to be quiet. But what I found was that wasn't the case. Once I got in there, it took me a minute to relax. Like, I didn't realize that.
You commented about your neck. Like, I don't
Right.
want to let my neck go.
Right.
It's that control feeling,
Yes.
sort of.
Yes, because I just thought, like, obviously, I'm not going to sink. I'm in there and I'm floating like a rubber ducky on top of this water. I was afraid my head would go underwater, and it couldn't, even if I wanted it to. But it took me a good, like, 15 minutes to fully relax my muscles. And then I could actually audibly hear my neck pop, and then I was relaxed. I know.
How did you find out about float therapy?
For this story, I mean, I had heard of float therapy before. I didn't know anything about it, but I've seen the different float shops around Portland. There are many of them, so I knew it was a thing.
Right.
And so I started doing a little research, and I found several in Portland. I looked through all these different websites. I landed on Float North because of all the websites I looked at. It was very scientific. There was a lot of like background information that kind of backed up everything that it claimed that floating did. So I picked up the phone, called the owner, and just had this like screening phone call, is
Right.
what we call it in the industry, and just wanted to get more information about it, wanted to see if she'd be interested in an interview, and she was. And then I thought, okay, got to go talk to Adrienne and see what she thinks about this. And you were on board.
I was, and I will add that one of the conversations that we have, and it's not just with you, it's with a lot of other talent that I work with, is how do we make this story informative, but also not make it an advertisement?
Right.
And so that was where we decided we need to find somebody
Mhm.
who is using this for, we call it a producer dream. Our producer dream is we find somebody that, has a physical ailment or they've been, suffering. We don't want them to suffer, but, has been dealing with, maybe a mental health issue or something like this. And this has made a difference.
Right.
We're looking for that personal story to tell.
Exactly. And so I did ask the owner at Float North, do you have any clients who come in here that have found it to be helpful with mental health issues and physical ailments? And she said, I can think of someone. I have no guarantees that they're going to want to go on camera and open up to the world.
That's
about
always the
it.
tricky part, especially with these kind of stories. It's like,
Exactly.
please come on and tell us all about your
Right.
maybe sometimes embarrassing thing,
Right.
or, that you just don't want to broadcast to the world.
Exactly. And it is sensitive subject matter.
Mhm.
And so I really have to give kudos to Nia and other people that I've interviewed that are willing to open up about that on camera, because I think it helps so many people watching.
Right.
So many people can relate to Nia and the mental health struggles, the physical struggles, and hopefully it encourages others to try something or step out and get help.
So you had mentioned to me that there is an option for lights if you want it, like little white twinkle lights.
Yes.
Did you turn them on? Did you see what they look like?
I did it first,
Okay.
and I really liked them. They were very relaxing, very, peaceful. But I wanted to challenge myself with this, and I thought if I'm here, if I'm going to do this, I want to go for it with the whole sensory deprivation thing. So I turned the lights off for probably 45 minutes out of the hour float that I was in there. So no lights, there was no sound. If my stomach growled, I could hear that echoing in the tank. It was just me and my thoughts. And that was harder to deal with than I was expecting,
Yeah.
because I just had these racing thoughts. And Dana, the owner there at Float North, warned me that if you've never done this before, you're probably going to run into that. It's going to take you a minute to chill out and really get the benefits. And
Well,
I
if
did.
you think about it, for most of us, how often are you in dead silence anymore? Never? I mean, you
Right.
talked a little bit about we're both working moms, like that
Mhm.
we joke that like half of our story ideas, we're the mom squad, right?
Right.
Like it's half of our story ideas come out of that. And a good portion of those stories are about like, how do you relax?
Mhm.
How do you, do this in a way that's like protecting your mental health and things like that too. But you don't really think about the fact that we're not in dead silence.
Right? I mean, you go to the bathroom at home, that's not even guaranteed silence. You're not even guaranteed 5 minutes to be left alone if you just need to go run to the restroom. It's true, you
Right.
know? And so like setting aside that time and going in there, I think probably was looking back at it, that was the most challenging part of this whole thing. I didn't feel claustrophobic at all. Obviously, the water was warm, the air was warm, I was comfortable in there. It was just sitting there with my thoughts and what should I do? And again, Dana gave me this suggestion. If you're in there and you start stressing about things, think of each thought as like a cloud that's passing by, acknowledge that it's there, and then let it float away. And I think that's something that I'm going to take with me forward as well. If I'm ever trying to
Just like in
relax.
life.
In life, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lesson learned there that like it's okay to have these thoughts, but you don't have to sit there and marinate on them. Let them go and they'll pass by.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
You know what? I would, and in fact, I did. I went back this last weekend.
Wow. Okay.
I took my husband with me this time, so I bought myself a session and him a session because he saw the story too. I'm like, you have to try this, and
Wait, but were you in the same tank?
no, I didn't want to share a tank. They have that there. I didn't
No
want to share a
offense,
tank.
husband, right?
I just thought I
Yeah.
wanted to be quiet and relaxing, and I didn't want to be tempted to talk to him or him talk to me because the whole idea is to be quiet for a little bit and really cut out all stimulation. And so he really liked it. He enjoyed it a lot. And I think going back for the second time, I didn't have that big chunk of time where I was like my mind was racing
Very
because I was
cool.
wondering what it was going to be like. I would say to anyone who's thinking about doing it, just be aware that it may take you more than one session to feel the full benefit from it.
Right.
Because the first time I really was spending a lot of it kind of like worried about
The experience.
the experience in and of itself. And I was on the clock too, obviously. I'm thinking about the story and how I'm going to put it together.
Did you last the whole time the first time?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Even with all those sort of like breaking down your thoughts and things like that, you were
Yes.
able to hang in there.
I will say the second time, though, I had those twinkle lights on the whole time. I liked them, and I experienced the
Yeah,
darkness.
a little magical.
I gotta say, there's this sensation when you're in total darkness that after a while, after, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, I lost track of time, but I couldn't tell if my eyes were open or shut. Because I thought they were shut, but then I would open them and it was pitch black in there.
That's a little disconcerting.
It was a weird sensation, and I didn't love that, but because it felt like nothingness, just like floating in dark nothingness. But again, I could feel my, heart rate slow after a bit. And when you get out, it's this feeling almost like you just had a massage or maybe like you just had a glass of wine. Like your body is just relaxed. And Dana was telling me that the biggest thing she notices is like when she's driving home from work, the traffic, the rush hour doesn't stress her out as much. The little things, you just kind of let them roll off because you're out of that fight or flight and you're just more into a relaxed state.
Well, that was my next question for you is how long did that last?
It lasted the rest of the day,
That's cool.
which was really cool.
Yeah.
I can see why people want to go back.
Especially people like Nia.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit more about things that did not make that story.
Yes.
And I remember the day after I was asking you about how it went and all that. And you said to me, I took a shower afterwards and I still can feel the salt in my hair.
Yes.
So you were coated.
I was coated.
Okay.
Yes. I was dipped in a brine and I came out and I was coated. I could feel, and there's a shower in there. And even I noticed that after the second time, some leftover salt residue. And my husband was like, did you just not shower well enough? It's different when you have long hair and it's different. But I would notice like behind my ear, whatever, there'd be some salt the next day. And you get coated in salt. That's just part of it. My makeup bag, I brought in salt all over.
Just from touching it?
Just from touching it. Yeah.
Wow. And then you told me a funny story about the clothing that you were wearing in the tank.
Yes. So this was a logistical thing. So
Yes.
going into this, there's so much information I wanted to share about float therapy, and I got great interviews from the people I spoke with. But TV, it's a visual medium, right?
Right.
So what are we going to show? And I wasn't going to follow someone else and do a float tank. It's kind of a personal experience, and you're there to relax. And I wasn't going to follow someone in with a camera. That's why I wanted to try it, so I could tell people what it was like. People usually do this in the nude, right?
We had a very funny conversation about this,
Yeah.
which I'm guessing you were probably happier to have with a female manager than, some of our male managers.
Yeah, we have interesting conversations at work. I know. I'm like, what other industry would we be talking about this?
Right.
But we did have to talk. Like, I want to go in this tank. What should I wear? And at first, I thought a swimming suit, and then I still felt kind of weird being on TV in a swimming suit. I didn't feel comfortable with that.
And then we talked about angles, how we could shoot you. And our
Yes.
photographer said, "Oh, I'll just shoot her feet." And we said, "Oh, no.
No, don't want to make it
That's,
weird.
that's getting a little weird,
Yeah,
too.
that could be a
So
thing.
you landed on a T-shirt and bike shorts,
Yes.
essentially?
It looked like a wetsuit.
It did?
Right?
Yeah.
So it worked out.
It did.
Funny thing about that wetsuit is that after I got out, Dana warned me, don't go throw that in your washing machine at home because the amount of salt in that could damage your washing machine.
That's crazy.
So I'm glad she told me that because that's the last thing I'd want to do. So I took the wet clothes, threw it in a plastic bag, tossed it in the back of my car. Still there today. When did I do this story? A month ago, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
no,
I'm
that's going to
afraid-
be its own little science experiment,
I'm
isn't
afraid
it?
to look in there. I probably should just toss it, but I need those bike shorts for this summer. So, yeah, I'll follow up with you and let you know if there's something growing on them, or I don't know. Maybe they're preserved forever in salt.
So besides the wardrobe
Yes.
logistics, what other things sort of made this story difficult to show? I mean, this is a dark place,
Yes.
right? You're in water.
Mm-hmm.
How did that work?
The photographer I worked with, Eric Williams, he's a great photographer and he's very creative. And we had to get creative on this because it is dark. While the tank felt roomy for me to be in, it's not roomy for someone to come in and shoot in. And he wasn't going to like step in the water.
Or like put a tripod in there or something
Right.
weird, right?
Yes. And I wanted to show what it was like in the tank. And so we ended up using a GoPro that we put up on the side of the tank, up toward the ceiling. And then later I took the GoPro on a stick and I had it with me in the water. I wanted to show people from my perspective what I was looking at. So I, pointed it up toward the ceiling. I pointed it toward myself, showed what it looked like when I got out. And then Eric also had his big news camera. And so it was a combination of both of those things.
Well, thank goodness for technology.
Yes.
It gets us into all the little tight spots.
Yes, and waterproof cameras,
Right.
I took it under the water as well. So it was a fun one to film. It was unique and a few different challenges there, but I think it turned out well overall.
Definitely. Was there anything in this story that you really wanted to include, but, we're limited to like a 3-minute story maximum, right?
Right.
So was there something that you didn't include there that you wanted to maybe share today?
There was lots, as you know. I always try to come to you with like mini documentary pieces.
Yep.
I know. Adrian's always telling me it's great, but could we cut it down just maybe a little
Maybe
bit?
a little bit.
Yes, I like telling long stories. There's just so much I wanted to include. I didn't get too much into the weeds about the science behind it,
Yeah.
which there is a lot of. Like Dana was explaining to me that our brain waves, if they're normally operating at alpha and beta just in our day-to-day problem solving going through life, when you're in the middle of a float, it can shift our brainwave pattern toward like theta, and that's more like deep daydreaming or meditation brainwaves. And when you're in that state, like it can be really healing for mental health issues. That's what's going to help with like anxiety or depression, and that really like takes you down a notch. So it kind of forces your brain into a meditative state, even if you're not someone who meditates at all.
And you felt immediate results of that, right?
Yes.
Like you were saying, you just felt you had a massage.
Yes, like my body was relaxed, my mind was relaxed. Something else that I thought was interesting that I didn't get the chance to include is there are kids that come in to float.
Really?
And she was saying that they get a lot of like neurodivergent kids coming in, kids on the autism spectrum. The parents want to bring them in. And it's different for kids because they're not going to lay there for an hour still,
Right. I guess the good news is nobody's standing there saying, "Stop splashing."
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
inside a tank, so splash away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, usually kids would go in for maybe 30 minutes and they're encouraged to move around, splash around, and experience the weightlessness and the sensory deprivation, which is good for kids too. So And there's that big tank, mom and kid can come in and float together, and it could be a family thing. So I thought that was really interesting too.
The woman you interviewed, Nia, in the story, she originally came in for physical pain, right? Which, if you suffer from chronic physical pain, you know what a toll that can take on your mental health. So beyond the mental health aspect of it, that floating, I would assume, takes a lot of pressure off of joints and
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And that's why people do that.
Yes, and on top of that, you have the magnesium element to it. I didn't realize before the story how important magnesium is for us just as a nutrient, whether you're taking like oral tablets or when you're in the float tank, there's, like I said, 1,000 pounds of liquid magnesium. So it's soaking into your skin
Right.
and it helps you sleep. It keeps you regular. It helps calm you down. I didn't realize there were so many benefits to it. So like you're getting like a super dose of that magnesium every time you go into a float tank.
And that is what we would also commonly refer to as Epsom salts.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So I think a lot of people use those in their baths to get the
Yes.
same mini effect of it at home.
Exactly. And I was asking Dana, like, if someone wants to try this but not come in, like, how could they do this at home? And she mentioned, get a bag of Epsom salts and add several cups into your bath and go in there for at least 20 minutes. You're not going to float, from that little of salt, but you will feel the effects of it.
So with all that said, I think a question that a lot of people have, because I have it too, is the ick factor. How do they clean the water in the tanks in between each person that comes in?
For sure. And obviously, anyone would want to know that before you, strip down and get in one of these tubs. So she was explaining to me that the salt itself is antimicrobial in the water, but they drain the water after every use. They run it through several different rounds of like circulation in the tub. They use UV light to clean it. They use hydrogen peroxide, some other chemicals. And so they really disinfect it.
And just like the ocean, there's so much salt in there
Yes.
that it's sort of a naturally clean thing. We were talking a little bit about the fact that many people don't know, because I didn't know until you just told me this, that this is often covered by insurance, HSA, FSA.
Yes. So I think maybe a barrier to this for people would be the cost of it. And, if you're going often or if they have like a subscription service they offer there too, but it can be covered by HSA or FSA funds and you can reimburse to your insurance because it is a proven therapy. So this isn't like a spa treatment. It is more of like a medical therapy.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that would probably be cost, that idea that it's cost prohibitive would maybe keep people from thinking,
Right.
I can do this too.
Exactly.
Well, what was your big takeaway from all of this then? Now that you were on the backside of it, like what
Right.
do you kind of want people to know about this?
I would say that this is a great tool to have in your toolbox for mental health care. It's not a cure-all. You're not going to go in there and have every ailment or mental health issue literally float away, but it is very helpful and it can be used along with other types of therapies and with exercise and a lot of other healthy things you can do to just make yourself feel better overall. And it's worth trying. It is worth trying.
When you and I first started working on these well-being revolution stories together, what is there one thing we want to focus on? And I think what we sort of organically have come to is that exactly what you said is we're looking for things that are sort of like a tool in your toolbox, right? And we're always looking for more things like this. But the stories that we've done have sort of, crossed all sorts of different subject matters. I was thinking about one that we did back in the fall. It was actually Leah that covered it. And we did this because it was a really early morning shoot. So we were trying to not have you
Thank you.
have to get up super early.
Yeah.
But the idea behind it is that we sent her out to a school in Oregon City where every home game day, the football team comes and they high five the kids, in their jerseys and everything, high five the kids and they just say, have a great day.
I love that.
And it's like that. The idea behind that was it's not a therapy,
right.
but does it make you feel good? It sure
Yes.
does, And so those are the kinds of stories that we like to tell as part of this series. And we're always looking for more.
Yes. And I feel like people want those type of stories these days. There's not enough of them these days. And every time I do one of these well-being revolution stories, I get really good feedback on it because people want more things to feel good about and be happy about.
So float therapy is a perfect example of, this well-being revolution brand that we have. The idea behind it is to take the stigma out of things that many of us deal with. And again, a lot of these ideas come out of conversations that you and I have organically. You stop in my office, we'll be talking about our kids, we'll be talking about, something that we're personally dealing with. And then, this all of a sudden turns into a story idea with the purpose of, hey, how can we do something that lets people know they're not alone?
Exactly. There's something out there for everyone, whether you're in a tank relaxing or riding a horse on a trail, taking a walk through the forest. And that's part of what I love about this franchise, too, this Wellbeing Revolution series, is I get to explore those, too, and tell people about it at home.
So send us your ideas.
Yes, please.
The Mom Squad is always looking for new ideas.
I like that. We should make T-shirts.
We should.
Bumper stickers.
Yeah. Thanks, Nora, and thanks for watching or listening. Check back in for more Beyond the Broadcast right here each week. We'll have a new conversation and a new pair of reporters to share their process. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Fox 12 podcast. For more content like this, download the Fox 12 app to your phone or any connected device, like your Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or Smart TV.